Hey guys, welcome back for Kids Church. This is my puppy Pippa. Hope you guys had a good holiday. We got to go to the beach. Pippa got to come. That was pretty fun. I'd love to know what you guys did on your holidays. Maybe you can send me a picture or I'd love to hear. Normally we get to chat lots about it and I'm really missing you guys. It's a long time since we've been together. Well, this term we're going to study a book in the Bible called Ruth, and you might remember last year we studied God's big picture, and I thought we'd use some of the pictures to help us remember where in the big Bible story does Ruth happen. Do you remember these pictures? I'm going to use these pictures today to help us think through when did it all happen. So God's got one big story that he tells in the Bible, and it's all about his plan to gather a people through his son Jesus. So I wonder how Ruth fits that big story. That's what I want you to keep thinking about this term. All right, let's start. So in the beginning, God made a good and perfect world, and God is the loving king over everything, and his people are happy living in God's beautiful garden. But not long after God made Adam and Eve, they disobeyed him. They didn't want him as their king, and the Bible calls this sin. The Bible tells us that sin is a super big problem because God always punishes sin. Now, for Adam and Eve, that meant that they had to be sent out of God's good garden and away from his good and loving rule. Life was now hard. But even though the people that God had made had rejected him as king, God had a plan. Do you remember? God made 3 big promises to a man called Abraham. The first one was that God was going to give his people a land, a good land again. God was going to make Abraham the father of lots and lots of people, lots and lots of descendants. That was the tricky word we learnt. And God promised that he would do good through Abraham's family, and that good would be for the whole world. That's a big promise, isn't it? So we've got God, he promises to do certain things, and the people in response agreed and said, we'll do certain things. And this is where the story of Ruth happens. So we've got God's people are living in the land that God had given them. But they've sinned, they've rejected God as their king, they're not trusting him as their king. God's also given them judges who were leaders, and they should have been ruling the land well and encouraging the people to live with God as king. But the people and some of the judges themselves had turned away from God again and disobeyed him. And there was now famine in the land. There was no food and life is hard. So, in the book of Ruth, we're introduced to a family who actually chose to leave God's good land, thinking that life would be better somewhere else. But life outside of God's good land is never good. Life away from him as king is never good. Now, we know that God keeps his promises, and the book of Ruth reminds us that God is still at work keeping his promises. Remember those 3 big promises? And as we study Ruth together, I want us to keep thinking about that big story and those 3 big promises, because we know that God wants everyone to live with him as king, because living with God as king in the land he gives is the only good life. Well, you know that last promise, the big one that said that God would do good through Abraham's family for the whole world? Does that include us? It does, doesn't it? The whole world includes Barranduda, Wodonga, Yakandanda, Burrong. So, have you ever wondered, is God's plan really that big? And does God really keep his promises for that long? This story happened thousands of years ago. So is God still keeping his promises? I want us to keep our listening ears on this term as we study Ruth, because we know that God keeps his promises, and we want to think, how does Ruth help us know how God is doing those three big promises still? All right, there's no craft today, guys, but we've got a song that I'm encouraging you to learn with your family. It's a Colin Buchanan song called Remember the Lord, and we've got a button that you can click to listen to that now, and I encourage you to do it. It's a great song, and sing loud, have a go at the actions, and we look forward to studying Ruth together. We'll see you later, guys.